Hey guys, welcome to Bridie Bakes. So Mother's Day is coming up really soon, and today I'm going to show you some buttercream techniques that you can use to make some gorgeous cupcakes for your mum. So I'm going to show you 3 different styles, and with each cupcake we're going to build on our technique a little bit and get a little bit more complex. We're going to start with a really simple rosette that we can turn into a pretty rose, and then we'll have a bit of fun with a multicolored swirl, and then we'll finish it off with a few different tips and techniques all popped onto one cupcake. So for our first rose cupcake, you're going to need a piping bag, some buttercream, a cupcake obviously, and some large star nozzles. Now some popular ones are this open star, which is the Wilton 1M. You've also got the Wilton 2D, which is a closed star, and they both make gorgeous rosettes. I personally like to use this really big one, and this is the Loyal 1B. So this is what I'm going to use today. Once we've finished the rosette part, you can also add a little leaf if you want to make it into a gorgeous flower. So you can add a fondant leaf or a chocolate leaf. I'm going to use this little leaf tip and pipe it on with buttercream. So this is the Loyal 352, but there's heaps of different leaf tips you can use out there as well. So the first thing we want to do is make sure our buttercream is really nice and smooth. So I'm going to take this and give it a bit of a mix. Now it doesn't need to be too thick. It's not going in a cake where it needs to support anything. So we can have it a little bit thinner than we would for a layer cake. And having it that bit thinner and really nice and smooth will help us create a really nice even rosette. So no breakage or anything like that. Now you can pop your nozzle into your piping bag and fill it up with buttercream. You don't want to fill it up too much, even if you're piping more cupcakes than I am today, because the heat from your hands can start to melt it. So smaller is better, and you can keep topping it up as you go. So cut the end off your piping bag and pop your nozzle in there. I always like to use a glass when I'm filling up my piping bag. I can fold the edges over to keep them nice and clean, and it just makes it a whole lot easier rather than me trying to hold it and just making a mess. And now we're just gonna spoon our buttercream in. And lift up the sides. Give the end a little twist to make sure that no buttercream comes out. And that'll also push all the buttercream down and give us a nice pressure when we're piping. So once that's all ready, we're going to grab our cupcake and our piping bag, and we're going to pipe our swirl. So we'll start by piping a little mound in the middle just to start us off, and then we're going to tightly spiral around that until we get to the end. Now make sure that you've got a decent amount of pressure going once you get started, because that's going to give us a really nice solid rose. If we've got a thin stream coming out of our piping bag, we're going to have to spiral around again and again and again, and that's where it can start to look a little bit messy. Now once we're getting to the end of the spiral, you can ease off the pressure, but do just keep following that spiral around, because that's going to give us a really nice tucked in tail. Otherwise, if you just kind of drag out and drag away, the tail can kind of go off on a direction of its own. So here we go. I am holding my piping bag nice and tight, and I'm going to start at the middle, do a little mound, spiral around that, and tail off, continuing the spiral. And there we have a gorgeous rose. Now I love this already. You can absolutely leave it like that. I'm going to add a couple of little buttercream leaves just to finish it off. So you just want to pop some green buttercream into another piping bag with a leaf tip at the base. And I always use my glass, even if it's just for the tiniest bit of buttercream. Give it a good mix before it goes in, just to make sure we get rid of any of those air bubbles. Push it all down and twist to secure. So I'm going to add my leaf at the tail end where I've finished off my swirl. So I'm just going to grab my buttercream. Now depending on the leaf tip that you're using, they all look a little bit different. So for this one that I'm using today, it's almost got like a bit of a beak shape, and you want to make sure that that is pointing to the sides, not up and down. So from the top here, it just looks like a point, but from the sides, it looks like a little bird beak. So what you want to do with this is squeeze firmly to start and then slowly pull off and release the pressure, and that is going to give you a gorgeous little leaf. And pull away. I'm going to add a couple on here. Lovely. There we go, our beautiful little rose. Moving on to the next style, we're going to do a similar movement with the piping bag, but I am switching it up to a French tip. So this is my Loyal 6B, and we're going to do a multicolor swirl as well, and that is just going to completely change the look. So because these are all together in a nice little set, I want to make sure that the colors complement each other really nicely across all the different styles. So I'm going to use that gorgeous deep pink as one of my colors, and then I'm going to use a couple of other lighter shades as well. I'm sticking to just 3 colors today, but you can use this technique to do a whole rainbow of colors, or you can just stick to 2. It's completely up to you. Now, instead of trying to spoon all these different colors straight into my piping bag and making a bit of a mess, I'm going to use some cling wrap and line up all my colors on that, roll it into a bit of a sausage shape, and then I can pop that straight into my piping bag and go from there. So I've already got my darker pink in a piping bag ready to go, and I'm just going to use that to pipe a nice line along my cling wrap. There we go. Now that doesn't have to be perfect as well, just as long as you get some of the color in there. This is all going to be rolled up anyway. For my lighter pinks, I don't want to waste another piping bag on them, so I'm just going to use a spoon and roughly try and line it up. As always, give it a nice mix before we start, just to get any of those air bubbles out. And then just roughly spoon it on. And repeat with however many colors you've got. Now that we've got those buttercreams on, it's time to roll this up. Try and keep it fairly nice and tight as you go. And then just twist the ends together to make sure you don't have buttercream spilling out all over the place. And there we have our nice little buttercream sausage. Put my French nozzle in there. Now before we pop this in our piping bag, we are just going to snip off the end so we've got a nice clean opening, and then we're ready to go. So gently pop that in there, right down to the bottom, and fold up the edges around it. So for our second cupcake, I'm going to do a similar swirl to the rose, but instead of stopping at the end, I'm actually going to do a second lap, I suppose, around the outside so that it raises up a little bit. So we're going to do the same as last time. A little mound of pressure in the middle and then around, but instead of stopping there, we're going to go around again a little bit more. So make sure you've got a nice tight grip, piping around, and then doing our second lap and releasing the pressure. And there we've just got a little bit more height to that, and it looks really nice. And you can see all the different colors in this as well, looking beautiful. Now I'm just going to finish this off with some pretty little sprinkles. Again, just at the tail end, or you can do in the middle. I'm just using some white and silver. And gorgeous. That is our second cupcake all done. Now for this last cupcake, this is where we get to go a bit crazy and do a whole bunch of different piping techniques on here. Again, we're wanting to stick to that same color scheme. So I might even start off with our little mixed bag, but I'll switch it over to a 1M tip and do a little rosette. And then I'm going to use one of my lighter colors to do a bit of a squiggle with a rose tip. And then I'm going to finish it off with some little starry blobs all over the place. So I'll start with my mixed bag. And fortunately for me, it's already all wrapped in Glad Wrap. So I'm just going to pull that out with my French tip. That's stuck together nicely. Take that one off and just switch it over for a 1M. and then I can put my little cling wrap bag back in, and I'm ready to go with that one. So next I'm going to pop my lightest color into a bag with a little rose tip. Now this is thinner at one end and thicker at the other, and it's just going to give us a really nice squiggle. Our second bag ready to go. And for my last one, I'm going to use a Wilton 4B, which is almost like a smaller version of what we used for our second cupcake. And we are ready to go. So I've got all my colors and tips sorted, and now it's time to start the last cupcake. You can really do your own thing with this just by combining different tips and colors and piping styles. But usually you do want to start with the biggest bits and work your way down. So for me, that's starting with a rosette with my multicolored tip. I'm not going to do a full rosette for this one, so I can start it to the side a little bit and just do a small rosette. So grab our piping bag, and just using the same technique that we've been doing, but just on a smaller scale. To the side, swirling around and trailing off. So there we've got our rosette, and you can see that I've left room to pop some other techniques on there as well. So next up is going to be my rose tip. Now usually when you're using this, you just want to make sure that you've got the thinnest edge to the outside. And I'm just going to do a little bit of squiggle alongside my rosette and kind of follow the curve around. So we just want to apply pressure and move it back and forward as we pull it back. So starting fairly at the top, it's okay to leave a little bit of room because you can go back and fill it in with some little stars and blobs later. We're going to pressure and just go back and forth for a little squiggle. So there we've got our little squiggle, and now it's just time to basically go in and fill in the gaps. So you can use whatever tips you want here. I'm going to go in first with my Wilton 4B. We'll see how we go. I can maybe even incorporate some of the other ones in as well. So all I'm going to do is a few little blobs to finish it off. So it's alright to overlap things a little bit here. You can pretty much do whatever you want. It's quite an abstract style, and whatever you do is going to look amazing. I'm going to do one last dot here. And there is our final cupcake for our Mother's Day set. All of our cupcakes are done and different, but they all go together so perfectly, and one or all of these styles will make a perfect present for your mum this Mother's Day. Don't forget that you can put your own spin on this as well by using your favourite nozzles and piping patterns. But I hope this teaches you some of the basics. Let me know in the comments if you have a go at it and how you go, and as always, subscribe to my channel for some more fun videos.